What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 39 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, January 13th, 2024. I'm your host, Zach Malama. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the NBA as the New York Knicks are looking at a back-to-back tonight as they take on the Detroit Pistons. Let's first look at yesterday's game, though, against the Milwaukee Bucks, a 140-106 victory for the Knicks to move to 26-14 on the year. Bucks fall to 20-17, and this one was all about Jalen Brunson. Had 44 points in this one in just 29 minutes, and I mean, what a performance by Brunson. The threes were going down for him. He had 5 of them, and he shot 16 of 26 from the field. 5 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, it was all about Jalen Brunson. Credit to Karl-Anthony Towns, of course, right behind him. 30 points, 18 rebounds, 4 assists. Had a couple of three-pointers as well. And it was all about those two. But Brunson, in just 29 minutes, able to get those 44 points. Actually broke a record for a player in the NBA under 30 minutes played in a game, scoring 44 points. With 5+ rebounds, 5+ assists. And I mean, what can you say about Jalen Brunson? The Knicks really needed this win here. And obviously it's been a rough stretch just a bit for the Knicks. And first time this season that you really saw the Knicks get tested. And obviously 4 out of the last 5 they had lost before that game against Milwaukee. Couple losses to the Thunder, and I mean, the Thunder are an absolute wagon in the NBA right now. There's nobody stopping them, but I mean, to be dismantled like the Knicks were on their home floor against Oklahoma City, I mean, the Knicks needed to bounce back up from that one, a 126-101 loss for the Knicks against the Thunder in their last outing. And obviously in this game, against Milwaukee, just putting the blitz on, and obviously all of those points up on the board. And really at halftime, you knew the Knicks would have this one under control. They were up by 13 at the half, and then they just kept it going. And obviously in the fourth quarter, really stepping up and leads them to a really comfortable victory in the end against a really good Milwaukee team in the middle of the Eastern Conference. So Brunson, what a game it was for him, and obviously those 44 points were huge, and it just proves that if the Knicks are going to get back to where they want to be, and obviously with those couple of losses, they really dropped and maybe dropped their level. Obviously the Knicks want to be near those top teams in the NBA and need to be in that group. Could that lead to maybe a trade or maybe some more additions? When it comes to before the trade deadline or mid-season now, that's a bit of a question mark, because this Knicks team, they get a back-to-back, a 7:30 start tonight at the Garden. Knicks come in as 7.5-point favorites, taking on the 20-19 Detroit Pistons, who come to town. And obviously the Knicks at 26-14, looking to grab another win here. Jaden Ivey is said to be out for tonight. Obviously, he's dealing with an injury that'll keep him out for a couple months. And Jalen Brunson's a game-time decision with the apparent injury yesterday, plus the fact that Mitchell Robinson's still out. And obviously, the Knicks are looking to continue this run with last night's game and continue to maybe build a win streak here. They take on Detroit, who has been okay in the middle of the Eastern Conference, 20-19 on the year. But now they have this next stretch the Knicks do, where they're looking at teams like Philly, Minnesota, and Atlanta. One of those games on the road against Philly, but the other two, and now this third one with Detroit, Minnesota, and Atlanta on their home floor. Those are games that the Knicks should feel comfortable winning. They also have a game at Brooklyn the day after the Atlanta game. So this next stretch of games for the Knicks, they really should be looking for wins here. But it all starts with tonight. After last night's victory against Milwaukee, they look for a win. 7.5-point favorites tonight, 7:30 start at the Garden. Tune in as the Knicks take on the Detroit Pistons at MSG. Let's shift things to the NFL. No real news coming out from the camp of the New York Giants. And obviously, with the coaches coming back, with Brian Dable coming back, with the GM and Joe Shane coming back. I mean, it's kind of looking towards draft season now for the New York Giants and maybe some free agents and that kind of thing. But really no real news coming out of the Giants camp. It's been all out of MetLife in terms of the New York Jets. And the Jets looking for a new general manager, a new head coach. They interviewed a bunch of candidates already for the GM job and 13 known candidates for the GM job as they interviewed 5 more in this last bit of time. And when you look at the head coaching job as well, a couple more interviews here and there. Darren Rizzi was one of the names. Vance Joseph is looking to be interviewed in the next couple days. So, I mean, the Jets are really continuing to roll with these interviews, and it comes down to who do they really want. I think a lot of the Jets faithful and the Jets fans are really looking at a guy like Aaron Glenn right now, especially with the defense not where it was last year, and now this season they really dropped that level, especially once Saleh was out the door. I think you need a defensive type of head coach. I said that a couple weeks ago or last week. I said that the Jets really need to look for a defensive mind. An offensive mind's not helping them right now. They don't even know who their quarterback's going to be, so how are they going to bring in an offensive mind to help out that offense? I really think it comes down to the motivational guy and strong defensive mind that they could get. Aaron Glenn has been the story, like I said, and a lot of Jets fans looking towards him. I'm looking also at a guy like Brian Flores, who just is not going to take the noise that comes in from upstairs. He's going to really settle things down and really eliminate the noise that comes from Woody Johnson and the Jets ownership and all the noise that comes from the New York media. I think Brian Flores is a really strong candidate to fit in that. I think Aaron Glenn will do that as well, but I think when you look at it, is he going to want to come to the Jets? Obviously, he's got ties there. There is noise about New Orleans as well for a guy like Aaron Glenn. However, the story out of Dallas today that Mike McCarthy will not return is now leading to Aaron Glenn or Mike McCarthy going to New Orleans. If it is McCarthy, then maybe it sets up Aaron Glenn to head to the New York Jets. We'll see what happens with that, and maybe an easier path now for the Jets, according to Rich Cimini, who tweeted that one out earlier today. So we'll see what happens, but I think Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, that's really where the Jets' focus needs to be. Those two guys are really strong candidates in my mind, and maybe include a couple more in there, but I really think those two guys are what the Jets should be targeting. Obviously, with Detroit and how that defense has been playing, even through all of the injuries, I think that all comes down to leadership, whether it's the guys on the field or the coaches off the field, and Aaron Glenn is a huge part of that, pairing up with Dan Campbell in Detroit this year, and they're looking for a Super Bowl, and I think that really is even a stronger case for Aaron Glenn coming in to be the Jets head coach. So we'll see what happens, but a lot of noise coming in towards MetLife Stadium, and I think Aaron Glenn and Brian Flores, like I said, those two guys I'm really focusing on, and if the Jets could get one of them, I will be ecstatic as a New York Jets fan. But we'll see what happens next couple of days, and we'll continue to monitor the Jets GM and head coach openings as well as interviews at MetLife Stadium. Switching things up a little bit, not a lot of noise coming out of the world of baseball. Mets and Yankees still trying to pick up some pieces here and there, but no real news coming out of Citi Field or Yankee Stadium. So let's switch things a little bit and move to college basketball, because it's been a great couple weeks in the NCAA, and obviously a lot of teams moving up and down the rankings, and Auburn now earlier today was raced to number 1 in the country, and they're 15-1 on the season. Obviously all those wins that they had down in Maui, but they grab a tough win, a gritty win at South Carolina on the weekend to move to 15-1, and they lost their big man in Janai Broome. The very scary sight for the Auburn Tigers, their leader and their big man down low. But it's just said that it's a badly sprained ankle, according to a lot of reports. And obviously that is a massive sigh of relief for Auburn fans and for Auburn basketball, as they probably will maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see what happens with Janai Broom. But right now, they focus on this week's matchup against Mississippi State. And that's going to be a huge game. Mississippi State coming off the loss to Kentucky on their home floor, and one of Mississippi State's only losses this season, as the SEC has become a gauntlet in college basketball. And really looking forward to a lot of those ranked games and a lot of ranked teams in the SEC this season and early this season. A lot of great games coming up in that conference in the next month or so. So we'll see what happens there. But I mean, as for the rest of the teams, Iowa State takes on Kansas this weekend. They got a huge win on the road in overtime in Lubbock, as they took down a tough opponent in Texas Tech that really gave them a run for their money. And obviously, when you look at Iowa State, just a wagon defensively, and they've really been strong. And TJ Osselberger has really set that mindset for this Iowa State team, and they deserve to be right at the top. Their only loss this season coming to Auburn in the Maui Invitational. So they sit at number 2. Duke sitting at number 3. Couple of losses on the year to Kentucky as well as Kansas, but they sit at number 3 in Cooper Flagg. Who is stopping Cooper Flagg in the ACC? There's nobody to stop that guy, and really nobody. There's not many to stop him across the NCAA. He's just been fantastic so far. Duke on a 10-game win streak, and I mean, he is a monster when it comes to college basketball overall. Of course, supposed to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft this season. So that's a star in the making in Cooper Flagg in college basketball, and he's been terrific. Like I said, on Duke's 10-game win streak, they look to a matchup against Miami on Tuesday night. And then you look at the next 2 teams, 4 and 5, Alabama Crimson Tide, as well as the Florida Gators. And then they're followed by the Tennessee Volunteers at 6. So when you look at that stretch, 4, 5, 6, plus they have the number 1 team in the country. I mentioned it. The SEC is a gauntlet of a schedule this year. And then you look at Alabama, 14-2 on the year, a bunch of wins against top 10 opponents, 3 specifically so far this season. And then Florida with that 30-point blowout against Tennessee, their 1 loss on the road against Kentucky. Tough opponent to play and tough place to play at Rupp Arena, and they're continuing to roll early in the season. And Tennessee drops from 1 to 6 with that 30-point loss. They are just they're the first team, as the AP number 1 team to lose by 30 plus points. They are the first team to do that since 1968, when UCLA did that themselves. So Tennessee's still sitting at 15-1, but that loss kind of proved that they were a little bit of a level below those other teams, and their schedule hasn't been as difficult, it seems, as some of those teams in Alabama and Florida. So they sit at number 6, but I mean, they're right there with the rest of them and looking to bounce back after that loss to Florida, and they did so with a nice win on the weekend. So when you look at all these teams, it's really packed in there, and looking forward to a next couple of weeks in college basketball. But in week 9 of the AP poll rankings, it is Auburn sitting at number 1, followed by Iowa State, Duke. Then you got the 3 SEC teams behind them in Alabama, Florida, as well as Tennessee. So a great stretch here coming up in college basketball, and more games to come up in the future. But it's really looking bright as we head towards March, and only the middle of January right now, and it's really looking like a bright season in college basketball as we look towards March Madness. But let's finish things off today with a Monday Night Football preview, and it's not a normal Monday night, as it is the NFC wild card, and really this game moved to Arizona after the wildfires in Los Angeles. Thinking about everyone there, and the 14-3 Minnesota Vikings take on the 10-7 Los Angeles Rams in the first round of the playoffs. And Minnesota comes into this game, as it really is a neutral site now, as 2.5-point favorites. Total sitting at 47.5. And Minnesota, one of their losses on the year came to Los Angeles. You got to go all the way back to a really solid week 8, where Minnesota was defeated by the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. That was the game that Puka Nacua, it was reported that he was going to be out. Then all of a sudden, by surprise, he comes back in and plays that game. And I think that caught Minnesota a bit off guard as they fell 30-20 on October 24th in week 8. Long time ago, and obviously Minnesota's been an absolute wagon since then. They did lose last week and snap that winning streak that they had going on for more than half the season. They did lose to Detroit in that deciding game in the NFC North. They obviously lose out on the division title, lose out on the 1 seed as well, and now they move to the 5 seed where they take on the Los Angeles Rams. But I think when you look at this game, they're just looking to bounce back tonight, and Minnesota is a great, great team with a great defense. I think that's what stands out to me in this one, is how strong Minnesota's defense is and can be, and versus a Rams team where, yeah, the defense down the stretch has been strong, but I just would prefer Minnesota's defense because I think they're just a stronger defense in the end, and they can control a strong offense like the Rams have, guys like Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and of course Kyren Williams out of the backfield led by Matthew Stafford. I just think Minnesota has the edge on the defensive side. And when you take that into account, plus the fact of how good their offense is and all those skilled players that they have, and Justin Jefferson, as well as TJ Hawkinson, you got Jordan Addison, as well as Aaron Jones, and the leader himself in Sam Darnold, who's been absolutely terrific this season, 35 touchdowns, along with 12 interceptions, over 4,300 passing yards this year. And he's just been remarkable. And I think even though Sam Darnold, not really an experienced playoff quarterback like Matthew Stafford has been recently, I do give Minnesota the edge, like I said, because of their defense. So tune into this one as I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings. And as for the total, 47.5, I'm going to take the under. I think a lot of these games have come down to defense, as you've seen in the last couple of games so far this postseason. And I mean, when you look at Minnesota's defense, I think they could cause a bit of trouble for Los Angeles tonight. And obviously, based on those circumstances, Los Angeles not in front of that home crowd. They are in Arizona. Yes, still favors Los Angeles there, but a bit of a more neutral site game. It's just a bit different than playing on your home field, and I think Minnesota gets the edge here tonight. I'm taking Minnesota with the spread 2.5, plus the under in this one at 47.5. But tune into this one tonight. Should be a great one to cap off the wild card weekend that we've had so far, and a lot of great games as we look towards the divisional round next weekend. But one more game to go, and it's going to be Minnesota and Los Angeles tonight. Tune into that one later. But that'll do it for episode 39 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamuth. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Wednesday.